I want you to translate the following text into American English. Using everyday language they use, don't add or remove anything, just translate it. On the map of southeastern Europe, Greece shows up as a constant meeting of sea and stone. Over an area of about 131,957 square kilometers, the country stretches across the Balkan Peninsula and opens onto the Mediterranean to the south and east, which shapes its climate, its economy, and the way of life in its coastal cities. Moving inland, the landscape changes. About 80% of the territory is mountainous, with hills, gorges, and elevations that draw roots and natural borders. The Pindus mountain range cuts through the north with a chain of peaks. There you'll find Smolikas, around 2,637 meters, and Mount Olympus, the country's highest point, and a deep symbol in Greek mythology. Before we go on, go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, each new chapter reaches you right on time and none of this journey slips by. Heading south, the scenery opens up in the Peloponnese, a peninsula marked by ranges like Taygetos and Parnon. Between mountains and productive valleys, small towns link past and present along winding roads, while fertile plains support villages and ports. When your eyes turn to the sea, another country appears within the country. More than 2,000 islands scattered across the Aegean and the Ionian. From the larger ones like Crete and Euboea, Evia, to the smaller ones, each sets its own pace. In the Cyclades, Mykonos and Santorini mix beaches, whitewashed villages, and the contrast between cliffs and coves. In the Dodecanese, roads and coasts stack layers of history in old ports and fortresses, always wrapped in blue. Across the archipelago, the common thread is a direct relationship with the water. Sea routes, fishing, tourism, and daily life guided by wind and tides. A through line that holds this mosaic of landscapes together. When people talk about Greece, many think of the islands. But the country really reveals itself along its long coastline. A string of beaches, coves, and natural harbors that sustain maritime life, trade, and leisure. On the plains by the sea, both on the islands and the mainland, the land is generous. Crops there supply domestic markets, attract investment, and support a tourism scene that keeps whole villages humming. The climate in the background helps. The Mediterranean dominates, hot, dry summers and mild, wet winters. The islands tend to be drier, while the mainland shows subtle shifts in temperature and humidity. This balance gives Greece an edge over European regions with harsher extremes and makes the country a comfortable destination for long stretches of the year. There's also a dialogue with our hemisphere. The mild pattern is similar to parts of South America. Brazil, Paraguay, Venezuela, and Ecuador share stretches of marked heat and rainy seasons. In this setting, the Greek landscape alternates ancient olive groves, neatly lined vineyards, cypresses marking the horizon, and a mosaic of Mediterranean species. Under the soil, the wealth continues: bauxite, nickel, magnesium, plus oil and natural gas. On the table, farming carries historic and current weight, with olive oil, wine, citrus, vegetables, and grains. And adding to that, tourism turns nature and culture into income, keeping hotels, restaurants, and services in steady motion. Greece's rugged landscape, islands, mountains, and narrow valleys, didn't just define maps. It guided trade routes, shaped city-states, and set economic rhythms for centuries. From that base comes a path that crosses eras and leaves deep marks on how the West thinks, governs, and creates. First, incorporation into the Roman Empire, then the continuity of its intellectual prestige in the Byzantine world. Centuries later, under Ottoman rule, resistance piled up in small victories until it took shape in the War of Independence that began in 1821. With support from European powers, sovereignty was recognized in 1830, opening a new political chapter. Before we go on, go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, each new chapter reaches you right on time and none of this journey slips by. The 20th century brought trials, occupation in World War II, wounds from the Civil War, and finally, in 1974, the shift to a parliamentary republic. Integration into the European Economic Community in 1981 repositioned the country on the regional board but also exposed its weaknesses. The 2008 crisis laid bare fiscal imbalances and forced a deep recession, whose impact reverberated in daily life and reset public priorities. Even so, the economy finds breathing room in tourism. Beaches, archaeological sites, and museums draw millions, sustaining income and jobs in chains that reach from crafts to hospitality. At the same time, Greek heritage stays present in classrooms and public squares. Philosophy, art, and architecture fuel contemporary debates on ethics, citizenship, and urban form. In Greece, tourism sustains a decisive slice of the economy and gives a strong push to GDP. Hotels, restaurants, transportation, and guides form a chain that employs a lot of people, from the coast to the mountains, and keeps whole cities active all year. When visitors arrive, they find a country that blends cultural heritage, open sea, and a climate that invites you to stay one more day, and then another. The gateway is usually Athens. Walking through the capital is crossing layers of time. The Acropolis dominates the skyline. The Parthenon reveals ancient engineering. The Theater of Dionysus recalls the origins of drama, and the Temple of Olympian Zeus still impresses with its size. Between one site and the next, cafes, street markets, and lively neighborhoods show that the city didn't freeze in history. It weaves history into daily life. Beyond the mainland, the islands broaden the lineup. Santorini brings white houses clinging to the cliffs and views that lock your gaze on the Aegean, while Mykonos calls those who want beach by day and music at night. In the north, Thessaloniki stitches past and present together with museums, ruins, markets, and a food scene that grows every season. For those who want to go deep, there's a map of places that explain how the Greek world took shape. Delphi, with its sanctuary and oracles. Olympia, birthplace of the games. Mycenae, tied to heroic myths. And Epidaurus, where the theater still shows off precise acoustics today. Beyond the postcard version of tourism, there's another engine that moves Greece's economy, the countryside. Olive groves spread across entire regions and put the country among the world's top olive oil producers. Alongside them, vineyards, citrus orchards, vegetable plots, and grain fields supply local and external markets, keeping thousands of families on the economic map. Around the sea, another force stands out. The long coast and archipelago favor a powerful maritime industry. Shipping, port logistics, and related services connect Greece to global routes and generate steady revenue. Add to that a broad services sector with finance and telecom supporting business activity and daily consumption. Before we go on, go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on the bell. That way each new chapter reaches you right on time and none of this journey slips by. That whole setup, however, was shaken in 2008. The global financial crisis exposed weaknesses, turned turbulence into a debt crisis, and led the country to seek bailouts. Austerity programs followed, run with the European Union and the International Monetary Fund, with direct impacts on people's lives. High unemployment, especially among the young, falling incomes, and a wave of emigration in search of opportunities. The political environment swung back and forth, and the need for structural reforms became urgent to reduce public sector inefficiencies and restart growth. Since then, Greece has been adjusting course. It's working to attract foreign investment, diversify activities, and modernize rules to give predictability to those who produce and hire. Reforms have been rolled out with European and international financial backing, aiming at macroeconomic stability and a longer-lasting expansion cycle. If Greece is on your itinerary, understanding the cost of living there helps you make a realistic plan. The item that weighs most on the budget is rent, and it changes a lot based on three things: where the place is, the type of unit, and what's included. Central areas and heavily visited destinations tend to have higher prices. Outlying neighborhoods or cities off the tourist circuit are usually more affordable. Converted to dollars, the range shifts with the exchange rate. In Athens, a one-bedroom apartment usually runs between $500 and $1,000 a month, depending on how close it is to the metro, shopping, and attractions. On the most sought-after islands like Santorini and Mykonos, the same type of place usually starts around $600 and can top $1,500, especially in high season or in the most popular areas. Those looking at smaller or less touristy cities like Thessaloniki find gentler scenarios. One-bedroom rentals typically go from $400 to $800. These numbers serve as a reference, not a rule. Changes in the dollar-euro exchange rate and seasonality nudge prices around often. Before you sign a lease or build your trip budget, It's worth checking that day's exchange rate, researching recent listings, and comparing neighborhoods. This gives you a more accurate picture of what you'll spend and helps avoid surprises. When you think about food costs in Greece, 3 things really matter: where you are, the type of place, and your travel pace. In touristy cities and famous islands, the bill goes up. In residential neighborhoods and the countryside, it goes down. To put together a realistic budget, it helps to keep a few ranges in mind. In simple restaurants, a daily special or a hearty gyro usually costs between 8 and 15 euros per person. Stepping up the experience, a more comfortable setting, a broader menu, the bill runs from 15 to 30 euros. In more upscale spots with full service and a curated menu, get ready for prices above 30 euros a head. Before we go on, go ahead and hit subscribe and turn on the bell. That way, each new chapter reaches you right on time and none of this journey slips by. If you want to balance the budget, cooking helps a lot. Buying groceries at the supermarket, an adult spends on average 40 to 70 euros a week, depending on habits and product choices. Day to day, the little things add up too. Coffee runs from 1 to 5 euros, changing with the neighborhood and the type. An espresso at the counter or a specialty drink. In bars and tavernas, alcoholic drinks vary widely. Beers usually land between 3 and 6 euros. A glass of wine, 4 to 10 euros, depending on the region and quality. These numbers are useful references, but they swing with the season and the establishment. For those coming from outside the Eurozone, the exchange rate affects the final cost and can make the same meal cheaper or pricier from one week to the next. A good habit is to check the menu posted outside and do a quick comparison in map apps before you sit down. That way you can match your food plan to your budget. At the Greek table, everything starts with freshness. Market vegetables, herbs that perfume the kitchen, and olive oil tying the flavors together. It's a shareable cuisine where every dish invites you to reach for the center of the table. Moussaka arrives in layers: eggplant, well-seasoned meat, tomato sauce, and a veil of bechamel. Right after, the smell of souvlaki mixes with gyro, grilled meat served in pita bread, with vegetables and yogurt that brings balance. Between toasts, the Greek salad shows up straight and honest. Tomato, cucumber, red onion, bell pepper, olives, feta, and a drizzle of olive oil. There are also dolmadakia, grape leaves holding rice, meat, and herbs cooked in lemon sauce, and spanakopita, pastry making room for spinach and feta. If we're talking cheese, saganaki hits the skillet and comes to the table with a squeeze of lemon, ready to spark the first one more piece. For dessert, lightly crisp loukoumades get honey and cinnamon, while baklava and galaktoboreko combine phyllo dough, nuts, custard, and syrup. Outside the kitchen, one stat stands out and adds another layer to the country's portrait. In a global Durex survey with around 30,000 people in 26 countries, Greece shows the highest frequency of sexual activity, an average of 164 times a year, a sign of a society that values pleasure and freedom as present at the table as in life. In this meeting of historical heritage, striking landscapes, and a vibrant vibe, Greece keeps drawing travelers and shaping habits today. So, did you enjoy touring Greece with us? If you liked it, drop a like and share it with anyone who loves getting to know the world. Tell us in the comments which dish you want to try first: moussaka, souvlaki, Greek salad, or those loukoumades that wrap up any night on a high note. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next chapters of this foodie trip. With every video, we keep uncovering the stories food tells, always in a simple, direct, and tasty way to follow. Turn on the bell so you're notified as soon as the new episode drops. Thanks for keeping us company up to now. See you in the next video.